We had a machlokes between two Tanoim, and then we brought in, or in Yud Gimel and Aleph towards the bottom, that we brought in a different brisa that we wanted to align with these two Tanoim. So the question is that really, can we really make that assumption that the first machlokes, he says that that you can, he says you can't use kankantum when you're writing the Sefer Torah, when you're writing the Parsha Sota of the Sefer Torah, while Rabbi Yaakov said in Rav Meir's name that no, it's when you're writing a separate Parsha Sota, that's when you can't use kankantum. But for a typical Sefer Torah, you could use kankantum. And the assumption being that the machlokus was, can you use the parsha of a regular Sefer Torah for the purposes of the Sota, and can you erase that a regular parsha from Sefer Torah to allow a Sota to be tested, or do you have to have a separate parsha? That seems to be the first issue. Then we brought in the second group of Tanoim. Maybe let's just read that again. V'hani Tanoi kahani Tanoi. Let's pick it up at 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the bottom. V'hani Tanoi kahani Tanoi. The Tanya ema giltik share lahashkes basota acheres. If you write a parsha for one sota, can you then use that same parsha for a different sota? And the answer is no. How could it's already been erased? Obviously, the sota admitted, like we learned Rashi, the sota admitted that she was guilty, and therefore there's no more drinking. So the first time I hold you can't. Rav Yishaya says it is. So we are assuming that if you can use the parsha of a different sota, must be that you don't have to write it specifically for her. And if you wrote it stam, it's okay. So the two things are aligned. Apparently, that does a sota require a specific parsha written in her name or not? So Amar of Papa Dil Malay. So Rav Papa blows this up a little bit, and he says you have no right to make that assumption. The Tanakam who said that you once you write it for Rachel, you can't write it for Leah. It's because you specifically wrote it for one person. But Stam maybe is different. But you have no right to assume and extrapolate from the fact that one Tana holds the fact you wrote it specifically for her that you can't use it for somebody else. That doesn't necessarily translate into the concept of when you write it Stam. Maybe when you write it Stam, it's perfectly legit to use it for the sota. So the idea of aligning the Tana of one Bryce with the Tana of the other Bryce, clearly, at least in this regard, in the issue of when you wrote it for Rachel, can you use it for Leah? And if the answer is no, it doesn't prove anything about a Stam Sefer Torah. That's basically negating that the linkage number one. Here's negating the linkage number two. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Dil Malahi. Another reason why you have no right to extrapolate from one to the other is that kan lekam Rabbi Achi Bar Yishaya Hasam El Dechtav Miel Shem Sota Ba'olam, and it could be the other way. That it could be that Rav Achi Bar Yishaya, who held that it was legit to use the parsha of Sota that was written for Rachel, and then Rachel admits, so that becomes it becomes unnecessary to use that parsha for Rachel. Now you want to use it for Leah. You want to know why you could use it for Leah? That Tana says is because it was at least written l'shem Sota. There was a specific kavanah to write it l'shem Sota. Avagabe Torah, but when it comes to a Sefer Torah, the Islamic ksiva, where there, when a Sefer writes, he's sitting in Yerushalayim writing a Sefer Torah. What's he writing it for? He's writing it as a holy scroll to be learned from and to be read, part of Torah, part of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Avagabe Torah, the Islamic siva, hachem lo makinan, but could be when it's written stam. That stam could be worse than a case where you wrote it for Rachel, because at least you wrote it for Rachel, it was a sota, so it was written specifically and uniquely for the parsha of sota. But if writing it stam, that's not good enough. And therefore, on two levels in either direction, one cannot extrapolate one opinion to the other, and therefore the attempt at linkage is not really valid. Let's catch up in the Rashis here.
We've done Rashi's
All the way through. Okay, fine. So let's keep rolling.
1 second. When they talk about erasing the Torah for the woman, are they saying? At one point here we said that there was a separate scroll written with just the sota.
That's one opinion, correct?
So is the other opinion here? Are they saying that they're taking like a whole Sefer Torah and just that one section?
I assume you're taking that section, right? I don't think you're taking this whole Sefer Torah. I assume you're taking that section
like
and
out or something, or they? I mean, like what do you do with the Sefer Torah afterward? I mean, like.
Well, you could put in another. I mean, after.
Sewn together these.
Well, you can.
Sell them, and I assume they dip it in the water and
Well, unlike it's tefillin, I don't think there's a problem. If you have a problem with one, you could put in another one, with a Sefer Torah. So, it's not necessarily an issue.
So that's sort of the assumption we're making here, that's the approach we're taking.
Yeah. I mean, in that opinion, it says you can use the parchment of a Sefer Torah. Yeah, you didn't put the whole Sefer Torah in. Yeah, that's the assumption I'm making. One second. Yeah, okay. Fine. Okay, let's proceed. So, Frekti Gemara, bottom line. Let's say the Rav Achi bar Yishai Hodatan, does Rav Achi bar Yishai not hold? Now, again, Rav Achi bar Yishai is the one who said that if you wrote it for Rachel, that you can write it for Leah. Okay, Megiltik share lahashkas basota cheres. That if you order for one, you're allowed to use it for the other. So the Gemara asks a pretty obvious bomb. The Leslie Rav Achi bar Yishai Hadatan, does Rav Achi bar Yishai not agree with that which learned in the Mishnah? Kosav get legarish ishtay. The man writes to get to divorce his wife in Nimlach, and he changes his mind when Motza ben Yerod, and he bumps into somebody who lives in his town, Vyomar, and he says, "Hey, that's an interesting coincidence. Shemcha kishmi, v'shemish shemishti. You're Yaakov married to Leah, and I'm Yaakov married to Leah. So isn't that a wonderful coincidence? You made up with your wife, and I'm about to divorce my wife. Okay, so why don't you give me the get, and we'll save money on the sofa. Maybe we can split the difference. So give me the get, and I'll use your get to divorce. Posel garishba. The answer is absolutely not. You cannot use this get to divorce a different couple when written for couple A. It can't be used to divorce couple B. So why is it any different by a Sefer Torah, by this Parsha of the Sota? Doesn't the Parsha of the Sota also have to be written for the sake of this particular Sota? Look at Rashi. So he changed his mind and says, you know what? I'm better off sticking with her. It's possible to use Alma, because of law, mashvul ishma. The words because of law, which is written in the Parsha of Get, implies that it must be written for her name, for this particular person. Here too by Sota, you have the similar expression that he must, do the process, mashmal ishma, he must do it for her. So the process l'chorah starts with the writing of the parsha. That l'chorah must be done for her. So how do you then take a parsha written for Leah and then transition it to Rachel? To which the Gemara comes back and says, "Come on, there's no comparison between the two cases. Hasam v'kosav law ksiv." Okay, there you look at the words of the Torah. The Torah writes, you write the get for her. Ksiv v'kosav law ksiv be'inon. Because of law ksiv, it's written in the Torah that you write it for her. Be'inon ksiv l'shma. Okay, that requires a ksiva l'shma. The writing must be done exactly like the Torah says, for her. So that's why by a get you can't transition to a different couple. Hacha, but over here by the sot of yasala ksiv v'nasiya l'shma. Okay, you have to do the making, the doing, the actual implementation of what it's talking about must be done for her. What's the asiya? Is the asiya making the parchment? No. Asiya dida mechikehi. The making of of the process and implementation of the process, as far as she's concerned, is the mechika, is erasing it and seeing, what happens. So that must be done for her, not the actual writing of the klaf, and therefore the two things are not comparable. One Rashi, he says, two Rashis, Hasam ksiv law l'gabe ksiva. There, the word law by get is written in relation to the exact thing we're talking about, which is writing the get. For the writing, or if remember the good old days back in Gittin, we had Rav Meir who said the chasima needed to be lishma. But whatever it had to do with the actual document that effectuated the divorce. Hacha ksiv law l'gabi asiyah. But here it says the word law in relation to the actual implementation. Asiyah hainu mechika. That is the mechika, that is dipping the parsha into the water, and that must be done for her. So if the kohen's got the wrong machshavos, that's taka, that would be a problem at that point. But not when you're actually talking about the klaf. That does not require lishma. Okay, so let's take a little break from the intensity of Eruvin for a little agadata. Amrav Acha Bar Chanina. Okay, so back to the Gemara. Acha Bar Chanina says, "Go vidu lifnei misha amar v'yolam." It is revealed and known to the one who said the world should be, which is of course Hakadosh Baruch Hu. She'ein b'dayrish shel Rav Meir k'maisei. That there is nobody in the generation. Everyone knows that that Rav Meir was the outstanding Tan of his generation. So why is it that the halacha is not established like him? If he was the super Tan of his generation, why would not he automatically command that the halacha follow him? And the answer is because he was so great that they could not understand fully and get to the full extent of clarity about his thinking. Okay, he would say on that which is tamei, I'll prove to you that it's tar. And he would show good argumentation to say indeed that it's tar. And his logic was so impeccable that I was able to argue very forcefully that which is tamei is really tar. Okay, and al tahar tamei, he would do the same thing on that which is tar. He can argue that it was really tamei. So he was certainly the master of the debate team without question. Umar loy panim. And show that indeed it should be tamei when it was tahor, when really it was tahor. So as a result, look at Rashi. I'll save daita. They could not really understand the full extent of his the end of his knowledge, so to speak. Because when you're so good at both sides, you don't really fully appreciate and are able to grasp. So which side is the right side? You defended both sides so beautifully, I can't tell whether I'm coming or going anymore. He was able to argue and defend the non-halachic position as well as he was able to defend the halachic position. So when you're that good at doing that, then you're listening to this person and then you start wondering, so I don't even know so what's right and what's wrong anymore. So they just had to go, they sort of left his argumentation, did it the way they thought, because they really he was ultimately, I guess, a little bit confusing for his generation. They couldn't really fully follow the bottom line in his world. They couldn't get to the bottom line. Okay, but he was the preeminent mind and Tana of his generation. So Tana, we learned in the Brisa. Back to the Gemara. Loy Rav Meir Shemai. His real name was not Rav Meir. El Rav Naharoi Shemai. His real name was Rabbi Naharoi. It's a little bays. Okay, Shem. It's like I'm not sure. Okay, says V'lomanikra Shemai Rav Meir. So why they call him Rav Meir? Shei Meir einei chacham b'alacha, because he was literally lighting up the eyes of the chacham in halacha. That's how penetrating and insightful he was. He was that illuminating that they call him Rav Meir. V'lo neroi Shemai. In reality, I guess I don't know if there's another opinion or there's just another process of telling us about Rav Meir's name, and in fact it wasn't Noroi, El Rav Nechemi Shemai. his real name was Reb Nechemia. Maybe his name evolved over stages. His real name was Reb Nechemia Varmalei, and other people say it's Reb Elazar ben Aruch, who's actually you can find him in Pirkei Avos, Reb Elazar ben Aruch, Shemoy. That was his real name. So if that's his real name, then why did his name devolve into Reb Neroi, or evolve, I should say, into Reb Neroi? Why did they go from that to that, and why did we keep his name the way it was? Shaman here Einei Chacham Balacha. Again, because he opened up and lightened up the eyes of the Chachamim in Halacha. That's how great he was. Let's keep going in the Gemara. Amar Rebbe Haidem Chadadna Mechavroi. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, the great Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, says the fact that I was sharper than my counterparts in learning is the Chazi Seler of Meir Machure, because I was able to see Rav Meir from behind. So you didn't actually even have a seat. Some seats are so bad you have to sit behind, the performer lahavdil. Okay, and you can't get into the seats. We can look at the person speaking. So Rebbe, when he was there and listening to Rav Meir Shurim, he didn't even have seats were able to see him. He had to sit behind him. So you only saw the back of his head. Had I sat in the front where I could actually see his face, I would have been that much sharper and that much greater. What's the difference between being in the back? Bottom line, I still hear him. Right? What's the big difference? If I see him or I don't see him? No, it makes a big difference. Because it says your eyes should see your teacher. So when you can see the person who's teaching you, that's much better. If that person teaching you obviously is a great person, then you'd want to better get the seats where you can actually see. It's body language. It could be the eyes. It could be everything. What?
It's all body language. In other words, what are you missing? You're missing the body language of the speaker.
Okay.
Well, he always says about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, his eyes were penetrating.
Right.
Looking at his eyes.
Right. Right. So, body language implies hand motion. You mean anything? Anything has to do.
Nonverbal communication.
Yeah. Fine. Okay. Fair
You
enough.
could smile about something. You could, make a face about something.
And we're looking at you all the time.
Okay. I'll try to wear a mask next time. Okay. Let's see. Rashi, the Chazise, Rav Meir. Me'achure shalmadati lefonav yeshafti b'shur shalachrov. When I learned by him, I sat in the row that was behind him. Okay, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure why they just couldn't put him all the way in in the front of the room and then put all the rows. I don't know why the rows had to be that there were some rows behind Rebbe, but that's somehow Rav Meir. But somehow that was the way the room was structured. So that's a deal. Okay. Let's see weiter. Back to the Gemara. There was a student of Rav Meir whose name was Sumchus, one that we are familiar with in the in Noshim and Ezekim, especially in Ezekim. We know Sumchus has some famous positions that we learned about. One of the famous ones is Maman Amuta B'Safik Cholkin, right? So he was the one who went against Hamotz Mechavel of Araya, and Sumchus disagreed. So this Sumchus was the student of Rav Meir. On anything that was Tumah, he would give us 48 reasons as to why it's Tumah. And on anything that was Torah, he would give us 48 reasons to explain that position. So I guess the message is he was incredibly brilliant at articulating the reasonings for the halacha to defend the positioning of whether it's Tameh or whether it's Torah. Okay, weiter. Talmud Vasik Haya b'Yavne. There was a certain sharp, excellent student in Yavne. Shemetaris Sheretz b'Meya v'Chamishim Taimim. He was able to purify Sheretz 150 reasons why it should be Tahar. Okay, and it sounds like it's simply read that it was Tosas goes into this exactly. I mean, what does that mean? You're Matayra Sheretz. Sheretz is Tamid. The Torah says so. Okay, he says. Yeah, so it's a Rabbeinu Tan. So basically the idea is it wasn't so simple about different types of tumah, and he was able to illuminate it and show us that in various cases, 150 reasons why this sheretz would be tar. Okay, Amar Ravina. Ravina says, "Ani adun v'tarana." I will make a judgment call on it. This line sounds like he's actually talking about making a sheretz Torah, which again is hard to do when the Torah tells you these are the 8 shrutzim that are tamei. So what's there more to analyze? It is what it is. Are you one of those shrutzim or not? But Ravina says, I will now analyze and make a judgment. I will make a Torah. Uman nocha shememis umarbe tuma tahar. If a snake who is able to kill and does kill, right? When he puts his venom into an animal or to a human being, he kills that animal and that human being. And what is the status of a dead person or a dead animal? It's tummy, right? That's what a nevel is. In a nevel, you touch a carcass, you become tummy. With a man, with a human being, it's even more intense tumah. So if a nachash who actually injects the murderer's venom is tahar, and nachash is not one of the 8 shrutzim. Sheretz she'emei misum umar betuma, a sheretz who does not have the ability to kill, the shrutzim are not venomous, okay, and they don't increase tumah. Like kol she'en, should they not be tar? Sounds like he's just trying to argue against the logic of the Torah. I mean, obviously, it doesn't mean that we're going to change halacha, but it seems like he's just arguing that a nachash, which is not one of the 8 shrutzim. If that's tahar, then the shrutzim should certainly be tahar. I'm not sure exactly, maybe just some mental gymnastics. I'm not sure what really Ravina was trying to do here. But the Gemara comes back and says, I'm not really impressed with your logic, Ravina. I don't think this is a valid argumentation to make a sheretz tahar because you're missing a fundamental point. V'lohi, your logic is not on the mark. Why? Because ma'aseh koitz ba'al makavid. Because when the sheretz is not making contact with the person when he dies. Okay, nor with the animal when he dies. The sheretz simply throws the thorn, so to speak, into the body, and eventually, as the venom flows through the body, it dies. But the snake is not at the point of death. The snake is not in contact with the.
Because of the type of snake.
Well,
A rattlesnake makes contact with it or bites you.
No.
But it releases.
Yeah.
In certain
At the moment of death.
But it bites too.
Right, but it injects.
Yeah, big deal. But is a man dead at the moment of contact?
It takes time.
No.
Right. It's not so
Exactly the point.
Still
So I put a thorn in your system. Eventually, the thorn gets stuck in the guy's throat. He dies. At that point, I'm 20 feet away. I'm in a different town. So it's too late. So if you're talking about tumah, the dead animal and the dead person only can transmit tumah when they're dead. And that's already after the direct contact of the serpent or the snake. Look at Rashi. Okay, nachash shememis adam behema umevi tumah ba'olam. Right, a nachash who kills, and by killing you're bringing. So I guess Ravina is sort of alluding to this. It doesn't say that it comes in contact, but it does bring tumah into the world. Tahar kishameis. Right, the Shwana Shratzim Ksiv. Okay, when a sheretz dies, it is Torah because it's not one of the 8 shratzim. It's not one of the things delineated by the Torah. Okay, so to which the Gemara comes back and says, I don't really follow and I don't really agree with your logic. He did a ma'aseh koitz. He threw a thorn into the person's body, but he did not actually. It's one thing if you choke him and you're dying by strangulation. The person who's choking you and stays there until.
Yeah, but that's like saying a guy who takes a gun and shoots you, right? You don't die instantly. I mean, you could die instantly, but a lot of times you don't die instantly. You got to bleed out. You got to whatever it is. So you say, well, he really didn't kill you. The bullet,
Well,
No, but you're not saying that a killing. You're talking about him. The tumah coming from him touching
Exactly.
the dead person. We're not talking about culpability for the death.
Exactly. We're talking about the idea that you bring tumah. So again, I guess that's how you look at it. In other words, Ravina looked at it, what you're saying. You brought tumah into the world because you're the murderer, and by murdering this animal or this person, you brought more tumah into the world. So you should certainly be tumah. If you're not tumah, then sure, for sure, not. But the comeback is, but we're in the world of tumah. Tumah is the world of transmission. Okay, and how you transmit is through physical contact, and therefore your argument is not really plausible or applicable. What?
Isn't tumah if you're under the same tree?
Well, that's
also transmission.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's transmissibility. You say you have to be in contact, but you're not in contact.
Well, that's only by.
Has to be in contact.
That's a unique case. That person is a unique case where it's so such a high level of impurity that even by OLU, yes, but that also.
Share its own only through contact?
Yeah, of course. Everything Zov, Shera. I mean, again, you can pressure. There's Medris. I mean, there are. You're right. There are cases where I'm not directly, but there needs to be something connecting. There's got to be something that's merging the tumah together with me, and by a venom, by a snake, it's not happening. I throw the thing into you, and 100 feet later or an hour later, you're gone. You're dead.
This doesn't have anything to do with Rabbi Meir anymore, does it?
It doesn't seem that way.
Like at first, the Sumchus, we weren't saying it was because he was his disciple.
Well, it says Talmud Hayilay of Meir.
But we weren't tying it back. We were just saying, these are other people that can argue both sides.
Exactly, that's what it seems. Correct.
So it won't answer the question about the Sota either. I mean,
Correct.
We're not going to answer the question about the Sota.
Yeah, we're now in the world of Agadita, so
Likes his answers.
Well,
okay.
we got this thing with the Shema or not the Shema.
yeah, we're done with that. That's history. Okay.
You know the Shema. You don't know the Shema whether it's.
What do you
Well,
mean?
they get we know it has to be written.
Yeah, we know. I mean, that's what the Gemara said. The Gemara is very clear.
The Sota, we didn't answer the question.
Sure we did. We said that by Sota, all you need is the act to be done lishma, but not the writing of the thing. We said very clearly that it doesn't. The writing of the thing of the thing does not have to be lishma. Again, I mean there is another
The
Tana.
racing has to be Lishma.
Correct. I mean, sure. The other Tana was machlokas tanoim. I mean, the other Tana said you're right. If you write it for Rachel, then you can't write it. Then you can't use it for Leah. That's correct. It's a machlokas. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you want to avoid all machlokas, then you better.
Don't be a Jew.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. Don't learn Gemara.
Can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Gemara's not for you if you don't like machlokasim. Okay, so weiter. We're at the little dot, at least in my Gemara. Amr of Abba, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the wide lines. Amr of Abba, Amr Shmuel. Shalosh shalom nechelku beisham besilel. Okay, I guess once we're in the world of machlokis, we're going to bring in beisham and besil as well. 3 years where Beisham and Basil argued. Halalu oimrim halach k'mosenu v'hil oimrim halach k'mosenu. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, each one said, halach is like me. Yotza Baskel v'yamar, and then the Baskel went out and finally said,
This is also in the Vomis.
okay.
So Pascal comes out and says who's sharper.
Okay, very good. Here he says, I have the Zion? Or that a Vav?
These and those.
These are Zion. Okay, yeah, I don't know, there's a difference.
Rashi, Kesubas it says here.
Kesubas,
See Rashi,
Yeah.
Kesubas 57a cited by whoever it was. Also,
And he says, get involved in the base. Okay, I don't know. But yeah, this is not the only place in Shas, correct. So, Yotza Baskel v'yomra, Elu v'elu diril kim chayim. Famous expression, a Baskel, a heavenly voice came out and said, they're both correct. Okay, they're both speaking the word of God. They're both understanding Torah from their perspective. Many different ways of understanding what this exactly means, but the basic concept is that when you're interpreting Torah and you have that ability to interpret Torah, then that's your truth and you're speaking the word of God. They both have validity. However, V'lochia Beis Hillel. Okay, but the halacha happens to be like Beis Hillel. Really, if they're both speaking the word of the living God, so why was Beis Hillel zeichet to have the halacha like them when they both seem to be so truthful and so so valid? What's the deal? So they were so more calmer and more humble. And they would actually work hard at analyzing and teaching their words and the words of Beis Shammai. And not only that, not only did they take pains to analyze and to explain the oppositional view, okay, which, I mean, today we'd be very well served in the world to start doing that. To say over, some views don't seem to be able to be articulated without whatever. We won't get political now. But not only that, okay, but they actually put Beis Shammai's words in front of their words. They actually had the kavod for Beis Shammai to put their positions first. As we learned back in the good old Sukkah days, okay, it's one Masechta we're going to be able to skip because we did Sukkah in our years here. Mishaya Like we learned, if a person had his head and the majority of his body in the sukkah, but the table was outside of the sukkah in the house, so there's a danger of the potential of leaning over and grabbing something from the house and eating it while you're bent over and your head is in the house. Is that a valid sukkah? Not. Beis Shammai Paisim Beisil Machshirim. Okay, Beis Shammai says it's not valid. Beis Hillel says it is valid. Amr Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, and Beis Hillel then argues to Beis Shammai and says to them, isn't there a story that took place that the elders of Beis Shammai and the elders of Beis Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan Charanis? So Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, this house, this yeshiva that followed Hillel, went on for many years. So the new kids on the block were arguing about this issue, and they try to prove it from a story that happened with the older fellows. And yet, who did Beis Hillel put first between the two people who went to visit Rabbi Yochanan Charanis? They put Beis Shammai first. They gave respect to Beis Shammai. Okay, Umatzu Yoshev Rosh Ruba B'Sukkah, and they found him with his head and the majority of his body in the sukkah. Things were a little cramped over there, and the shulchan was in the house, and you see, and they didn't say anything, right? So it must be that if they visited him and they felt that, and they didn't say a word, must be that it's okay. So he says, so this is part of the Mishnah where Beis Hillel is arguing that it must be okay to have such a sukkah. Amru lahem Beis Shammai answered them back. This is still part of the argumentation. Bisham Raya. Do you want to bring a raya from that particular situation of that story? Afein Amrulo, they were not quiet in that case. You have to know all the details, and if you go back to the videotape and check what took place there, is that they said to him, Imkacha Yisanoeg, if this is the way you were conducting yourself all the years, that you had the majority of your body and your head in the sukkah and the table outside the sukkah, loy kiyamta mitzvah sukkah miyomecha. Okay, so you have never fulfilled the mitzvah sukkah. So you see that. So we just brought this in as a tangent issue. We're not here to discuss the sukkah per se, but you do see how Beis Hillel offered respect and they were deferential to Beis Shammai. Lamdecha, and this teaches you. Now we're in our own back into the Agadah to the Eruvin world. Okay, that quote is over, and now the Gemara in Eruvin is talking. To teach you that if you lower yourself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu elevates you. So they still lower themselves and were deferential, and they get to have the halacha like them. And if anybody who elevates themselves to be this super, haughty, big shot type of mentality, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mashpilo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu lowers you. I don't think they were referring here to Beis Shammai. I think they were just sort of saying that you see how important the humility is. Yeah.
Maybe it's about sukkah, but what's the matter with having your head and the majority of your body in the sukkah, but the table's outside? The idea is to eat.
Where's the Danish?
Huh?
Where's the Danish?
In my mouth.
Well, where was it before? It was in your mouth.
Oh, it was in the kitchen, and then
exactly. It was on a table. When was the table?
Yeah, but isn't the
So you never saw Danish that you really had to start putting it in your mouth the minute you took it, you put it in your mouth because it was so good and so fresh. You couldn't wait to get back in your sukkah to sit down.
Oh, so you're outside of the sukkah when you're eating.
No, you're sitting on the table, but you reach out to get it. And now you're out of the sukkah and you put it in your mouth.
You're outside of the sukkah when you're eating.
The table's outside the sukkah.
Yeah, but
we're afraid. You don't. So you never saw a guy who just had to go for it right away, who just couldn't. Okay, fine. So that ends that discussion.
The other thing. Boss call. I thought we were not supposed to listen to
Take you to a
Boss
Kiddush
call.
one day.
How about no boss call? I thought we weren't supposed to listen to that.
Okay, it's a good question, and they talk about that, right? There were, but remember we said there were different opinions. One person said Mashkin Boss call, but other people said yes. So that itself is a machlokus about whether or not you can, give any credence to a Boss call.
One of Yavamas where he says that Lo b'shamayim he. Right, it says that the Shammai is sharper, that the majority is Hillel.
Right, so remember
and everybody agreed to listen because otherwise the Shammai and Hillel couldn't intermarry. And that was the whole problem there. Was
Well-
marrying between the two because one.
Okay, I'm saying again, but
one wasn't yet.
I think we did the toasters that said that if when you're going against a majority, so then name mashkich and baskos, because you've got that case, a famous case in Bab Metzia, where he says lo b'shamayim that's a concept with the baskos going against the rules that we have down here of going after the rove. So even though the great Rabbi Eliezer, proved through the Baskol that he was right, we don't listen to that Baskol, but if it's going with the flow of what we would have done, with Beis Hillel, it wasn't against the grain, and they were the majority, I believe, as well, so that's a little different. So, but it's a good point, but it depends on the circumstances exactly.
There was another Baskol that came out and says Mashkich in the Baskol, and that's like the following.
Okay. Very good. So, so anybody who elevates themselves, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knocks him down. Okay, okay, so that's why you have to be careful. And obviously, humility is the virtue that one should aspire to. And if you're going after greatness, greatness will run away from you. But if you're running away from greatness, then greatness finds you. If you don't want it, then it gets you. But if you're going after it and you're trying too hard, then you're going to realize it's going to be very elusive. And you look around, you see this concept. You see people really are trying too hard for recognition, and recognition never seems to reach them. If you keep pushing the hour and keep pushing the moment, and you don't have the patience to let things flow to you, okay, don't sort of overly make things happen, then the time keeps eluding you, and you can't, you keep pushing it away. But if you sort of slow down, you let things happen in its natural way, and you sort of allow the situation to dictate that you're passive at a certain point, so then the right time will emerge, and you will be able to, you'll find your moment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you a moment if you don't push too hard in trying to make things happen, but you allow, sort of nature and hashgacha to take its course. Okay, Rashi. Aluvin, Savlonim. They were very humble, Beis Hillel. They were Savlonim. They just what's the word? Patient is a type of patience, a type of humility. Okay, and they would try to learn their words and the words of Beis Shammai. Show you Beis Shammai Mavi and Raya Devrayim. When Beis Shammai would bring a proof to their position, B'nai Torah, Beis Hillel Mavi and Raya Mimikra Acher, and Beis Hillel would bring a raya from another source. Beis Hillel Dorshas a Mikra Shel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel will go out of its way to explain how they understood Beis Shammai. Lama Ba. For what reason is it coming? Okay, and it wasn't sort of dismissive. They were not dismissive of Beis Shammai. They went out of their way to understand the words of Beis Shammai and explain the words of Beis Shammai. Like we have in brachas, B'Shamai Oimrim, Be'erev Kol Adam Yatev Yikra. B'Shamai says you got to lean over and read the Shema, V'Borka Yamod, and recline or lie. V'Borka Yamod, in the morning you got to get up. Shema B'Shavu Chav Kamecha. Beis Hillel Oimrim Kol Adam Koyv Kedakari, and Beis Hillel disagrees and that you can read any which way you want. Shemar V'Atu Chavaderach. So, but they went back. Im Kein Lama Nema B'Shavu Chav Kamecha. So, what about B'Shavu Chav Kamecha that Beis Shammai darshan? B'Shosh Derech B'Nei Adam. It's at the hour, not about the way. But you see, they went out of their way to explain what Beis Shammai's pasuk really means, showing that a real respect. Otherwise, they were not dismissive. I don't have to explain that position. I'll put this up tomorrow. Shkoyach.